All right, I wanted to make a quick video about the 3D All-Stars collection outside of my normal upload schedule because as somebody who's played a lot of different versions of Mario games in the past, I feel like I have a little bit to contribute to this. But it's more that you keep asking me. There's been a lot of hubbub around the internet that these games aren't remakes or remasters, but emulated ports, which doesn't matter to me at all. I'm just happy that they're on the Switch in any capacity. But I will say, I had some immediate and visceral reactions to playing all three of these games. I'm weirded out. I'm weirded out by this. They all play fantastic. I highly recommend this collection as one of the best games for the Switch. It's just that it feels weird. Something's off. And it's not something I was expecting to feel at all when I pressed the plus button for the first time. The best way to play Super Mario 64 is on original hardware, going through a Super 64 into a FrameMeister and then into your TV. And you should play it using either a Retro Fighters controller or a Hyperkin Admiral. And don't let anybody tell you otherwise. I just noticed this is the Switch version. It's not going through my original hardware. How dare I? There are plenty of updated ROMs and modified versions of the game, like the PC port, but the original hardware will give you the experience you were meant to have. And even with this new Switch release, there's still a couple of things that, when rolled together, just don't feel right to me. It always felt weird playing Mario 64 with an Xbox controller when emulating it on PC. This is to be expected. We're playing an N64 game on the computer. The N64 controller was built with Mario 64 in mind. It was made for this game. On the Xbox controller, Y and B are essentially useless. There's way too many bumpers. The right stick doesn't control the camera in a way that feels good. You have to flick it. But this all gets a pass because, again, you're playing an N64 game on a computer, and probably illegally. But in a AAA actual Nintendo release on the Switch, it's weird. It feels really weird. I don't know what exactly I was expecting. Maybe it's because the Switch has over 20 years of hardware advancements over the N64, and it's relegated to playing what is essentially the birth of 3D gaming. Don't get me wrong, it plays very well. It's just as responsive as you'd expect. Some people are saying there's noticeable input lag. I think that's an effect of the audio latency with certain sound effects. This isn't something that I noticed personally, but it is there, and some people who are hypersensitive to that stuff might be triggered by it. Though overall, I'd say it plays noticeably smoother. N64 games have notoriously bad frame rates. People are once again upset about this port because it's locked at a steady 30 frames per second, but the N64 version dipped well below that very frequently. So I'm okay with a locked 30. Similar to how ports of Mega Man games will have slowdown baked in, it's weird to see the game run smoothly. I'm not sure how I feel about the decision to lock it at 30 frames per second and not ramp it up to 60, but 60 frames per second hacks of the game also look really weird and really strange. The decision to leave it 4x3 instead of 16x9 also confuses me, especially because it's pillboxed even further. It doesn't take up at least the full vertical size of the screen. Modders have done a pretty good job of getting widescreen to work fine on the Mario 64 ROM, but I'd imagine to get it up to Nintendo's standards, they probably would have done a little more work to it. But the game feels fine in 4x3 because that's the way I remember it. Honestly, it doesn't feel weird in 16x9 either, though. I could take it or leave it. What's always been weird is that in emulators, the polygons look sharp and crisp, where the textures and UI elements look like pixelated ass. In this version, the polygons have some jaggies, but all the UI elements have been weirdly up-resed. They don't exactly look like they've been completely remade. It almost looks like they were put through some sort of AI upscaler. Some textures have been up-resed as well, but most of them are still mush. So now we have this weird mix of mushy textures and pixelated elements, and sharp UI elements and jaggy polygons. It's not bad. Look at the weird railing. And then the UI elements aren't pixelated like the banister is. It's freaking me out. But the door has a new texture on it. It's much better than doing a straight up port. It's just weird. Of course, there's also the fact that Mario 64 controls like an early 3D game. If you want to turn around, he does like a whole thing that could knock you off the ledge. That move right there. It's not exactly the most precise platformer. I made a video a little bit ago on why I think Mario 64 would benefit the most from a complete remake. I'm a little disappointed that they didn't do too much to the game, but ultimately I'm just happy it's on the Switch at all. It's still a great game and it's a great port. Super Mario Sunshine is a much bigger deal. This is the first time we've seen it ported to another console since its launch on the GameCube. What I gather is that Mario Sunshine is most people's least favorite 3D Mario game, and because of that, it often gets forgotten. But 3D Mario games set a really high bar, so just because it's the worst, it doesn't mean it's not still amazing. And it feels pretty much exactly how it should. It's unfortunate that you can't use a GameCube controller, but it's well optimized for a Pro controller. Normally, FLUDD is pressure sensitive, but the Pro controller doesn't register pressure sensitivity from the triggers. They get around this by having ZR do a running squirt and R do a stop and squirt. And ZL is for strafing while you're holding down R to squirt. This feels just fine. It makes for a pretty awkward tutorial video though.
If you press the button, you can stop and shoot.
Nintendo did make the effort to make Mario Sunshine be widescreen, and honestly, it feels like this is the way it was always meant to be. It's still locked at 30 frames per second, which is not an improvement over the original. The original handled 30 frames per second very well. The cutscenes are very bizarre looking, mostly because it's early 3D that we're looking at, but also because they're old MP4s that were originally letterboxed to be widescreen on a 480p screen. So they were very low resolution and they've been bizarrely up-resed. There's also a weird haze over the animation. Overall though, Sunshine is a beautiful game. I don't think it needed the remake treatment at all. This is a perfectly fine way to play this old classic. No need to bust out the GameCube or the Wii for this. You'll have a totally fine experience here on the Switch. I'll admit, I haven't played the original Super Mario Galaxy at all. I only played the second one for a little bit at GameStop when I worked there on the demo kiosk. There was a midnight launch when we were waiting for the store to reopen. I had like a 2-hour break and I spent 2 hours playing Mario Galaxy 2 on the demo kiosk, and it was great. It's a great game. So I don't have much to base this off of. I'm very excited to get through this version, as Galaxy is many people's favorite 3D Mario game. And playing some of it now, it is amazing. It's definitely the most beautiful game in the collection. It definitely didn't need much remastering. The original also ran at a full 60 frames per second in widescreen, so technically it's not really an improvement. However, it's HD now. They didn't do all that much to make it HD, but honestly, it didn't need that much. It still looks great. It does suffer from the same sort of hazy cutscenes that Mario Sunshine did, but they look a lot nicer than Sunshine because it has a 5-year technological bump. The original game focused pretty heavily on the Wii's motion controls, which means some changes had to be made here. Surprisingly, the Joy-Con feel great. The fact that you don't need IR to point the controller directly at the screen shows how far Nintendo has come in motion tracking technology, and it feels really fluid and intuitive. However, I don't know what happened, but the cursor janked out every once in a while. It's really cool that you don't... Okay. What? Okay. Alright, well, you just proved me wrong. I was just about to say it's really cool that you don't need an infrared sensor to be able to point. Like it feels really good. But then it just froze on me, so never mind. In the original, shaking the controller spun Mario around. In this port, they let you just hit Y, so if you're using a Pro Controller, you don't have to shake the whole controller every time. But this makes it way too easy to just spin around the whole time, because that move is OP as fuck. Using a Pro Controller works, but having the cursor on screen the whole time definitely feels weird. It's not as intuitive to aim an entire controller around than it is to just point one Joy-Con. As much as I love the Pro Controller, I'll probably be playing through this one on the Joy-Con. It's also weird seeing Wii menus again. Having to select menu options with motion controls is giving me flashbacks to not having the sensor bar set up correctly. If it sounds like I'm being harsh with some of my criticisms here, that's because I absolutely am. Nintendo is known for their polish and attention to detail, so it's weird to see them just port a bunch of old games onto a physical cartridge. To me, it seems like Nintendo really struggled this year. And in order to make it out in time for Mario's 35th anniversary, they had to ship the minimum viable product. That's not to say this collection is bad by any means. It's still a fantastic collection of games and totally worth $60. I just wonder what it could have been with a little bit more of that Nintendo polish and a little bit more of that attention to detail. I still consider these remasters, even if they aren't on par with Nintendo's other remasters. And the fact that these are emulated is pretty exciting. It means we could see other N64 games, GameCube games, and Wii games ported to the Switch very easily. Of course, the argument is, if these are emulated, then why don't I just play these on my computer at a full 1080p? Well, that's because that's stealing. And this is a legit copy of some of these games for the first time in many years. So what do you guys think about the Mario 3D All-Stars collection? Is it something that you picked up? I'd recommend at least getting the digital version by March if you want to play some of these games. It's a limited release, but I'm sure Nintendo will have something in the future. Maybe they'll sell each games individually for a bit of a marked up price, maybe $25. If you've never played any of these games before, I'm curious to know what your first time playing them is like. Which one is your favorite? I have a feeling Galaxy is going to be the best one out of all of them. But that also seems a little unfair. It's the newest one. I'm also curious to see what people think of Mario 64 and how well it aged. It's an amazing game, but it suffers from a little bit of dawn of 3D problems. Really, all it needs is a fixed camera. Anyway, leave it in the comments below. Add me on Twitter. And all this other social media garbage. We got new videos here. I mean, at least once a week. This is a bonus video. Make sure you subscribe so you know when there's new videos. And make sure you're subscribed. Make sure it says subscribe, because you might think you are and you're not. Maybe you're just using YouTube's suggested feed to see when I upload new videos. And you can't rely on that, because one day YouTube's not going to show you. And then you're going to be upset. And I'm going to be even more upset because I need the views, please. Also, I use a lot of footage here from my Twitch stream over on twitch.tv/WulffDen. So make sure you follow over there and turn on notifications so you know when I'm live over there if you want to hang out. But if you like YouTube a lot more, check out WulffDen Clips. We have a clip of that gameplay. So if you'd rather watch a stream like that culminated into just a 10-ish minute chunk, then go over there and watch that. Or just share this video with a friend who's maybe thinking about getting this and wants to know how weird it is being ported over to the Switch. If it feels good, all of these retro games. Thank you very much. Have yourself a good week.